All Hit Radio.
Welcome to the X Zone, a place where fact is fiction and fiction is reality. Now, here's your host, Rob McConnell.
And good evening, one and all, and welcome back to the X Zone. I am Rob McConnell, and for the next 2 hours, I am your host. I am your guide as together we will cross the time-space continuum to this place that I call the X Zone. It's a place where people dare to believe and dare to be heard. It's a place where fact is fiction and fiction is reality. The X Zone comes to you Monday through Friday from 10 p.m. Eastern until midnight, right here on the X Zone Broadcast Network, Talkstar Radio Network, Mutual Broadcast Network, and on your hometown radio, Classic 1220 CFAJ AM in St. Catharines, Ontario, Canada, streaming us on classic1220.ca. Well, let me see, Exo Nation. Tonight we're diving deep into the intriguing world of ufology and its intersection with faith. Joining us is the renowned researcher and author John Milor, who will shed light on the fascinating concept of Christian Ufology. Prepare to expand your understanding of the unknown as we explore compelling evidence, personal experiences, and mind-bending theories. So sit back, turn down the lights, and let's step into the X Zone. John, welcome back to the X Zone, my friend.
Hey, yeah, thank you for having me on again. Always like coming on this show.
Thanks, John. For the listeners who may be joining us for the first time, can you share a little bit about your background and how it influences your work?
Okay, yeah, from a young age, I had always been interested in kind of the paranormal. At the same time, I had seeds of faith planted in me that didn't sprout until later in life. But I am both a Christian believer of the Word, basic standard stuff, in terms of believing the Immaculate Conception, the Trinity. Doctrine of the faith statement pretty much lines up with the evangelical statement of truth and mission statement and whatnot. But I also have spent years studying the paranormal. I'd love to be able to go for a degree in demonology because I probably know a lot of stuff in that area. And paranormal is kind of the thing that I have been stuck on, which makes me kind of like different than a lot of Christians because I dug deep into the idea of aliens and ETs and stuff, and I have a lot of information that will intersect with the ancient astronaut theory, except I believe that God created humans and that we weren't seeded here by aliens.
Now, regarding your perspective as a Christian ufologist, can you describe an incident that occurred with your sister and that piqued your curiosity about the paranormal?
Well, there's a couple of incidents with her. She had a Ouija board incident once, but the more astounding one was when she lived on an island in the middle of the Mississippi River. So maybe even a lot of people don't even know this island exists. It's got a hunting lodge on it. And the Mississippi River is really big. For those who've never been there, in this part of the river, the island that's in the middle of it is about 5 miles wide and 8 miles long. And the river's big on both sides of that island. And it's kind of like this secluded chunk of land with a lot of wildlife on it, deer and you name it. And so there's a hunting lodge on there. And is almost like the classic horror story. My sister and her husband took a job as caretakers of this hunting lodge during the off season. So it's sort of like the Shining in a way.
Mm-hmm.
But they were completely off grid. They didn't have electricity there, and they lived in a little shack next to this big facility that was empty. But it was kind of like a barracks and a big cooking area for the hunters where they'd gather. But for the most part, they slept in these bunks in there, and then they'd go out and hunt when it was on season. But off season, it was just this big empty tin building, bigger. It's like maybe 2 or 3 barns in size. It's a really big facility. And they lived in this little shack that had a generator and they used kerosene lamps and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And so they weren't expecting any visitors. They didn't get visitors. There was one other person that lived on this island, on the south side of the island, like 5-6 miles away. And they lived on the north side, or more toward the north side. So they were 5 miles away from this one neighbor. And they didn't see him because there was no vehicles on the island. There was a tractor. You had to take a ferry to get to the island. And then, so when I went to go visit my sister, we ferried over there, and then they took us on a tractor with some hay bales on a trailer and whatnot. So interesting place,
Yeah.
but you could feel an energy resonating there. This place was a real hotbed during the Civil War. A lot of people died there. But my sister was there one evening, and it was a snowstorm outside. Her husband was sitting on the couch cleaning a rifle, and the door suddenly opened, and this guy walked into the room. And blonde male, blue eyes, and he was wearing some kind of uniform, bluish in color. That's all that James could remember. But the guy looked like a flesh and blood person. He walked in the room and he saw James sitting on the couch, and he looked to the left and right. And he's just kind of like eyeballing the entire environment, like, where am I? This doesn't look right. And then he suddenly gets this kind of embarrassing look on his face, and he smiles and he waves at him, turns around and walks back out. James is sitting there like, what the hell? And my sister was in the kitchen cooking, and she heard something, and she poked her head around the corner just in time to see this guy's pants leg cross through the door and shut the door. And my sister looked at James, and he was like white as a sheet. He immediately leapt off the couch, gun parts spraying all over the place, ran over to the door and went to open it. It was locked. And he unlocked it, and the dogs on the front porch were all piled up against the door, and he had to shove it open. So how did that door even open? They didn't know. This guy, his uniform was immaculate, wasn't wet. He had not one speck of mud or dirt on his shiny, polished boots. It was like some black shoes that he had on. And James remembered this dude was like immaculate. And they looked outside, Mississippi mud. I mean, there's a beer named after it. It's like 6 inches thick everywhere. So this guy apparently materialized on their porch, because there was no way he was walking around out in that. And this dude was gone. And it was black, pitch black out there, and snowing with the dogs piled on the front porch. My sister screamed and started freaking out. So yeah, that they never did figure out what the heck that was.
Unbelievable. Especially now there was no trail of snow in the house. There was no wetness.
Nothing.
It was just as if this guy crossed a dimensional shift, came into this dimension, and then shifted back out.
Yeah, so they pondered 3 things.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe he was an angel in disguise and popped up in the wrong time. Maybe he was a time traveler, or maybe he was, what do you call it, a ghost. But the most interesting thing was his behavior, because he apparently seemed to realize he was at the wrong time and place and was embarrassed. And like he made a mistake. Like, whoops, sorry about that. Like, he had this goofy look on his face, and he waved at him. turned around and walked out. So the behavior, it wasn't like a ghost, that's sentience, that's interaction, that's taking stock of your surroundings and realizing, uh-oh, this isn't right. I think I should just leave. And it was just the most bizarre thing. That's not the only thing that happened to her on that island, but that was by far the most freaked out incident.
Can you share one more with us? I've got about 2.5 minutes before I have to go to my break.
Sure. They had a picnic one day, and while they were sitting out there, there was an incredibly loud explosion, and the ground shook. And it wasn't too far away. And they had no idea what. They looked around for it. That would have been, it was like a chunk of dynamite level explosion. The neighbor, it wasn't him. So they never figured out what the hell that was. But for a deserted place with nobody on it, they weren't expecting that.
With everything that was going on, John, how long did they actually stay in that place?
They stayed there 1 year, and it started really getting on them. That degree of isolation is kind of like being on that show alone or whatever. You never, they didn't have a phone. So they were just completely isolated, and they couldn't hack it that long.
Unbelievable. John, you and I have to get ready to take our first break, and Exxon Nation John Milor is our special guest. And if you'd like to find out more about John, visit his website, www.johnmilor.com. That's JOHNMILOR.com. And www.christianufology.net. That's CHRISTIANUFOLOGY.net. Now, John, I know you have some books for sale. Where are your books available?
Okay, you can get to the website you just gave, ChristianUfology.net. That's one of my main sites. It goes to my author website. My author website is my name, johnmilor.com. But if you Google Christian Ufology, you'll probably see my name, and that's where a lot of my books are. And I have some other landing pages for other books, like The Strong Delusion, thestrongdelusion.net, aliensandthebible.com, and aliensandtheantichrist.com.
All right, so here I've been calling you John Milor. It's John Milor. My apologies, John.
No worries.
All right, Exo Nation, we'll be back with my special guest of this hour, John Milor, as we continue investigating the world of the paranormal, the science of parapsychology, and this hour, UFOs, Christianity, the Bible, and demons. I'm Rob McConnell. This is the Exo, a place where people dare to believe and dare to be heard. Monday through Friday from 10 p.m. Eastern until midnight, right here on the Talkstar Radio Network, Mutual Broadcast Network, Exome Broadcast Network, and of course, your hometown radio, classic1220.cfaj.ca. That's classic1220.ca. Wow. Fascinating story. Maybe one day that mystery on the island in the Mississippi will one day be solved, and maybe we'll hear about it. Don't go away.
I'm strong, I'm sure, I'm in control, a lady with a plan, believing that life is a neat little package I hold in my hand. I've got it together, they call me the girl who knows just what to say and do. Still I fumble and fall, run into the wall, 'cause when it comes to you, I'm just another woman in love, a kid out of school, a fire out of control, just another fool. You touch me and I'm weak.
Explanation, John Milor is our special guest this hour. www.johnmilor.com and www.christianufology.net. John, didn't you used to believe that the UFO phenomenon was primarily domestic? Has this position changed over the years for you?
Domestic, but yeah, demonic, primarily, in my opinion, because that's when I really started out reading in Genesis chapter 6 right away when I was reading the Bible, and I saw these Nephilim, the giants. The origin of the giants was from these beings called the sons of God, the B'nai Elohim in Hebrew. Enoch referred to them as the Watchers, and they sired these giants, these hybrid human angel hybrids, which were monstrosities. They were horrible and evil. So that was what formulated my initial opinion, that these beings were not good. In Genesis 6, Matthew 24:37, and Luke 17:26 talks about the days of Noah returning to us in the future. So I thought that we were seeing that again, and that these are evil. However, I later took a more holistic approach. You can't ignore Ezekiel chapter 1 and 10, 2 Kings 2:11, 1 Chronicles 28:18. Or these are good guys. These are angels. Elijah was literally abducted. He was hit with a tractor beam and pulled up into an angelic chariot in the sky and taken off from this planet physically. That's an abduction by good guys. And there's actually more information about good guys in the Old Testament than there are the bad guys. You know, you got the account in Ezekiel. Ezekiel probably hung out with them quite a bit. Ezekiel chapter 8, verse 3 indicates that he might have regularly met with these beings with routine abductions. You see this again in the New Testament. Philip was taken up. You see Acts chapter 8, verse 39. So these are good guys. And we're going to even see them in the future. The Bible says that in Revelation 14, 6 and 7, that there'll be an angel flying in the heavens preaching the gospel to the people of earth. And that might be something that comes in a form that Christians are going to have a hard time reconciling, because angelic chariots probably look different from what most Christians think they look like.
Is it possible that the message from the sky could actually be a radio show or a TV show that's being beamed down by a satellite? There's many religious,
Absolutely.
There's many religious shows out there today, and a lot of people in the ministries that fill the airwaves are giving us this message. The end times are here.
Maybe I'm fulfilling that prophecy, because I call this ministry that I'm doing, if you can call it that, the ministry of the first angel. Because in Revelation 14, that's called the first angel, who gives this message that, and the message of the angel is simple. He just says, worship the Creator. Judgment day is coming. So he's reminding people who God is, right? And this ancient alien crowd, they're preaching their own religion. They're saying ETs are our God. And I'm trying to correct that message by pointing out what the message of this angel is saying. God is the Creator. The same Creator who created all of the heavens and the earth also created humanity. We weren't seated here. Earth isn't a genetic petri dish. That's not to say that these fallen angels didn't mess with our DNA, because the Bible says that they did. That's where these Nephilim came from. But that's not our original creation. That's messing with us after God already created us. So it's a very distinctly different message.
Does your research focus exclusively on ETs, John, or do you cover other paranormal topics from a biblical perspective?
Oh, yeah. Well, the origin of cryptids, for example, starts with Genesis chapter 6, because when you look at other extra-biblical literature, like the Book of Enoch and Jasher, which talks about those same things, the Watchers descending on Mount Hebron and integrating with human society, they cross with humans and animals. So you have a whole bunch of different freakish animals. They're chimeras, basically, genetic cocktails of all these mixtures of animals and angelic DNA. That's why they're not immortal when they die, which is usually in old age, like 500 years old or so. according to the Book of Enoch, that their ghosts become what we know of as demons. So this kind of gets into this whole demonology thing, and like, why do demons usually, people commonly depict them with horns? Because they probably do have them. They're like animal human freaks, and they have supernatural power. So the whole cryptid thing is out there. I also talk about ghosts quite a bit, being that I've had experiences myself with ghosts, and the veil tends to be thin in some places, so I talk about cursed ground and holy ground, and that's where the veil is thin with higher and lower levels of glory. And this requires talking about our modern understanding of quantum physics, multiple dimensions, and our science is actually catching up to what the Bible has described all along.
But John, if these hybrids die and they come back as demons with magical powers, how does that work? Because when all the other creations die, they don't come back with magical powers. Why just the cryptids?
I do believe that ghosts can have abilities, and just as people have abilities, and sometimes people will have supernatural abilities, though it's a little more rare. But these cryptids tend to have more, because angels that are a higher level glory, they have glorified flesh, angels, and they are physical entities. I mean, they can physically reproduce and whatnot. So they are physical entities, and they have like control over their atomic structure to be able to adjust their frequency to pop in and out of this dimension. That's one of the things that they can do. The Bible indicates that they can fly, for example. They might be able to teleport if they're very powerful. They're not completely unlimited. They need chariots, which is interesting. So they do have technology, but it's incredibly advanced, magical to us, but we're catching up. But their bodies actually have supernatural abilities, and so when they have children, their children, even if they're hybrid, they'll a lot of them have supernatural abilities, and the legends of old speak to that.
Is it possible, John, that we are filling in the gaps, or we are fitting the story to technology today, and it may not have happened the way that you're perceiving it to have happened?
Technology today, I do believe that the Bible speaks of an ancient civilization on Earth, an angelic civilization on Earth that predates Adam and Eve. The Bible talks about it, and that it was destroyed when Lucifer rebelled against God, and his kingdom was destroyed. But I do believe that there's remnants of that kingdom in the earth now. And I've even heard from military connections of a base in Antarctica, that there's underground rooms there, possibly a giant pyramid, and that they have technology that is still far beyond our own.
Then how come this hasn't been put out for everyone to know, to authenticate the claims that are made in the Bible, to make the skeptics and the non-believers into believers?
Yeah, well, the interest of the people in our government who are in the know on this stuff are thinking about other things than just fulfilling people's curiosity. It has to do with national security. It has to do with the technology and the impact that it would have on global economics. You can't just whip free energy out of a bottle and cut it loose and expect it to go flawlessly with the rest of the world to be able to, implement that and continue on without a hitch. There's too many billionaires that control things that are keeping a lid on it, I think. So a lot of this stuff is suppressed because of its implications, and because of, it's really hard to gauge exactly what effects advanced technology would have on our society as a whole. So,
but if
in
this
particular, yeah, the Antarctica thing in particular, the technology they have there is related to anti-gravity, and anti-gravity has been suppressed multiple times over the years.
But wouldn't it be hard to suppress all this information if it was true, John? For example, you've got one of the richest, in fact, the richest man in the world, Elon Musk, SpaceX, who uses a propellant that NASA uses. If this technology was available, with his money, couldn't he buy it? Where he don't have to use the propulsion systems that he uses, he could easily get this technology to propel his craft to other dimensions or even other planets or universes.
Yeah. I would like to think so. I'm kind of thinking that Elon might be a bit of a black sheep among the world's billionaires. The ones who have this technology are hoarding it, and they don't want it out. Multiple people have been killed over the years who have made claims of discovering it and have demonstrated it, and then before they could get off the ground, they end up mysteriously dead. I think anti-gravity in particular is one of those technologies that's been out, and it is directly tied to free energy. Tesla's another one. I mean, what'd they do with his research? They tore down his structure that was giving free energy. It was setting it up for free energy, and they tore it down, and some government stole all of his research, and we haven't heard anything about it ever since. And I think that's been a common theme that we've been seeing throughout all history.
But that is true about Tesla. But as far as the free technology aspect, to my knowledge, it was never documented.
Yeah, I somewhat doubt that, and I do think that Tesla probably had that information, and he knew it, and he had done many experiments and stuff on all kinds of things that were never released, never given to the public.
John, stand by. We've got to take our break. And Exo Nation, John Milor is our special guest. His website's johnmilor.com and christianufology.net. And we'll both be back on the other side of this break as we continue here in the X Zone, a place where people dare to believe and dare to be heard, right here on the X Zone Broadcast Network, Talkstar Radio Network, Mutual Broadcast Network, and your hometown radio, Classic 1220 CFAJ AM, streaming us on classic1220.ca. Don't go away. We'll be back very shortly.
Fumble and fall, run into the wall. 'Cause when it comes to you, I'm just another woman in love. A kid out of school, a fire out of control. Just another fool. You touch me and I'm weak. I'm a feather in the wind, and I can't wait to... Last night I said these words to my girl. I know you never even tried, girl. Come on, 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 come on. Please, 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 won't ya, like I please you. You don't need me to show the way, love. Why do I always have to say, love? Come on, 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 come on. Please, 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 won't ya, like I please you.
John Milor is my guest. And John, in the Bible, does the Bible mention the Sumerian legends of the Anunnaki?
Yes, actually. Well, Genesis 6 is the first reference that ties to them. The Anunnaki are the Watchers, or the sons of God. And that's where their origin begins, Genesis 6. But the Epic of Gilgamesh, is the Sumerian Epic of Gilgamesh about Enki and Enlil and the flood of Noah narrative, is basically Genesis chapter 11, except Nimrod is Gilgamesh. Now, when you read the biblical account, in Genesis 11. Nimrod is kind of like this warrior. He doesn't really seem like a bad guy, but you have to read between the lines. The word Nimrod is not a proper name. It's a title because it translates as rebel. And you get the backstory from the Epic of Gilgamesh, because the whole reason he's building that tower is to defy the god who brought the flood. And the Sumerian legend flip-flops the protagonist with the antagonist. So the one who's rebelling against the god who brought the flood, which is Enlil, which the Sumerian legend casts the god who brought the flood as being this tyrant, and Enki, the good guy, who comes and saves, the people or whatever. It's kind of a twisted, messed up version, but you still get a lot of cross connects, and you can fill in the gaps. According to the Epic of Gilgamesh, for example, Nimrod's mother was 2/3 God. So that would make, by biblical definition, Nimrod would be a Nephilim. And it makes sense. He was a man of renown, and not all the Nephilim were necessarily giants. But I think that Nimrod was probably a Nephilim, and the fact that his title is Nimrod, fallen one, or a rebel, lines up with fallen one, which is the Hebrew translation of Nephilim. So it's the same story, except the Anunnaki version is a messed up version, and they mix the antagonist and the protagonist.
Are there any similarities or connections either in biblical times or biblical text and or Greek mythology that meld the two together? Because there seems to be an awful lot of similarities when it comes to the deities in Greek mythology and Christianity.
Oh yeah, definitely. Even some of the Nephilim that are part animal hybrid are mentioned in Greek mythology. The Minotaur, for example, is Baal of the Canaanite god, because it's the same creature, humanoid body, bull head. So there's that. And then, of course, a lot of the Greek mythology it does similar to what the Anunnaki, what the Sumerians did. They take these beings that were these watchers, these and their hybrid children, and they deify them. They make them into good guys. And all of the Greek mythologies are about basically fallen angels, mating with humans, and then their hybrid children, and all of their drama that they have amongst each other. But according to the Hebrew interpretation of that, it's a bunch of fallen angels mixing with humans and creating a mess. And they wanted to be worshipped, and that's why they are Greek gods. The Greeks worshipped them. The Romans worshipped them. They craved that worship, which was an abomination, and it's why God wiped them out. And they still crave it. And I predict that when we see them return again in the future, that's exactly what they're going to do. They're going to set themselves up as gods, as our creators, and the foundation of that is already in place.
But John, isn't Greek mythology much older than Christianity?
Greek mythology, not necessarily, no. You can look at the Book of Job was written thousands of years before the Greek civilization existed. A lot of the Old Testament was written before the Greek civilization was around. The Book of Daniel actually lines up, predicting the Greek civilization and the things that would come out of it. So, yeah, the Bible's pretty old.
Because when you look at the hierarchy of Greek mythology, you've got Zeus that can equate to God. You have Hercules, which could equate to Jesus. You've got the sub deities that could equate to the apostles. You've got Helena, who can equate to Mary Magdalene. So
Perseus could also equate to Jesus.
Yeah, but who stole John? Yeah, but who stole what from who?
I believe that God dictated Genesis, the Septuagint, the first 5 books of the Bible, or the Pentateuch, to Moses. So that came directly from God. So, however old these other legends are, God is the creator of everything. and he was the one that dictated the origin of all of these things. All of these other gods, they come from Genesis chapter 6. All of these other religions. Genesis 6 is the origin story of all these other religions, because it says of which many legends were told. And those legends span the world. The same story that you see in Genesis 6 of the sons of God coming down from the heavens and crossing with humanity and all the catastrophe. You see it in even the account of Atlantis. The same thing happened there. They destroyed their civilization. You see it in the ancient Indian Vedas. These otherworldly beings came. They brought all of their drama and mayhem with them and destroyed the world. So it's the same story, but the Bible actually sets the record straight. These beings were rebelling against the Creator, and that's why they bring so much trouble with them when they come.
But a lot of people could be saying, and I know a lot of people do say, John, that the Bible is just a storybook, that there is no actual evidence to support any of the claims of deities or any of the great miracles that there are those who believe that really happened. So how do we justify the skeptic to the believer and the believer to the skeptic?
Libraries have been written. They call it apologetics because it is a whole science of theology behind it that basically are arguing in favor of the Bible being one of the most accurate ancient books of all time. And, you have the entire field of archaeology was created from people trying to prove the Bible. And one ancient city after another were found as a result. They have tons and tons of evidence supporting the biblical narrative. And, of course, theological people bicker about different things, but a lot of the basic facts of that are in the Bible can be validated and have been. So, in terms of historical accuracy, the Bible is spot on, and they've had a lot of people validate it.
If the Bible is spot on, John, and I'm playing the devil's advocate here, why is it that we celebrate Christmas on December the 21st when, according to the biblical reference made to the birth of Christ, it was the spring?
Yeah, it was not December 25th.
Right.
So that is an evolution of events that occurred over the years. One of the popes of the early Catholic Church was also Babylonian high priest. And it may, that sounds pretty convoluted, but that's actually what happened. So the order of the nuns, the order of the priests, and all this stuff, a lot of the things that you see in our culture today, the Christmas tree and stuff, they're a pagan origin. And part of that came from the early Catholic Church using these things to, they found equivalents. For example, the ancient Babylonian gods, they had a female god and a male god, right? And they said, well, that's kind of like Mary and Jesus. Well, let's go talk to these people and convince them that our God and their God are the same, the male and the female God. And so they deified Mary in the process. This whole Immaculate Conception of Mary is a Catholic concoction that came out of that. It's not in the Bible, but they came up with it in order to draw these converts in from the Babylonian region.
Wait a sec. You said the Immaculate Conception wasn't in the Bible. Doesn't it say in the Bible that...
For Jesus, not Mary.
Oh, I see. But Jesus was Immaculate Conception.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
Okay.
And that is hard scripture. That's a core belief of Christianity.
But isn't that one of the
God
key
in the
words
flesh.
that you just said? Belief. Now, belief is the strongest power in the universe, but belief necessarily isn't supported by evidence.
And I think God kind of wants it that way, in part because he needs us to be in a situation where he can evaluate our hearts. I mean, honestly, if God wants to prove that he's real, he could just come here and manifest.
Why doesn't he?
He could do what the devil's plan was for Jesus, right? The devil said, throw yourself off of this, off of this structure in front of all these people, and then they'll bow to you and worship you, right? Well,
but
that was the devil's way.
Doesn't that also give you plausible deniability? an escape route, a get out of jail card get out of jail free card, yeah. When you come up with an example like this to validate why proof isn't being submitted.
God is interested in what's in our hearts. And the only way that he can find out what's in our hearts is by us not knowing 100% ironclad, like, okay, he's real. He wants to know what we want to believe before revealing himself to us.
That makes no
And
sense.
then-
That makes no sense. I want you to believe in me, but I'm not going to prove to you that I exist until you show me that you believe in me. Therefore, in your mind, I exist and I win.
I believe, and I'll just use that
Okay.
text, that frame of reference. I believe that God is love, and being love, he wants to make sure our hearts are right before he drops the curtain and reveals himself to us.
All right, stand by, my
Like
friend. You and I
full
have to
form.
take our break, final break for this hour. Exonation, our guest this hour is John Milor. 2 websites, johnmilor.com and christianufology.net. Are you a believer or are you a skeptic? Send me your email, exon@exonradiotv.com. And we'll both be back talking more about the Bible, God, UFOs, demons, and much more. I'm Rob McConnell. This is the X Zone.
I know you never even tried, girl. Come on, 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 come on. Please, 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 won't ya, like I please you. You don't need me to show the way, love. Why do I always have to say? Day after day, alone on a hill, the man with the foolish grin is keeping perfectly still. But nobody wants to know him, they can see that he's just a fool. And he never gives an answer, but the fool on the hill sees the sun going down, and the eyes in his head see the world spinning round. Well on the way, head in a cloud, the man of 1,000 voices talking perfectly loud. But nobody ever hears him or the sound he appears to make. And he never seems to notice but the fool on the hill.
Exonation John Milor is our special guest this hour. 2 websites for you, johnmilor.com and christianufology.net. Before we went to the break, John, we were talking about belief and how God basically wants you to prove to him. Now, please correct me if I'm wrong. Please, prove to him that you believe in him before he makes himself known to you. Am I correct?
Sort of.
All
He
right.
wants to see what's in your heart. I could give another analogy, maybe put it together.
Sure,
a little bit
okay.
better.
I'd appreciate that.
Let's say you're a billionaire, right? And you have the ability to woo and awe any female on planet Earth, right?
Okay.
You got money coming out of your ears. You could show up in a jumbo jet and have a beauty pageant and be a guy on that show.
All right,
whatever,
I've
you
got
know,
one.
and-
I've got one question in this analogy. Do I have to pay Do I have to pay $400 million for the jet, or is it given to me by the Qatarians?
Oh no, 400. Yeah, that's pocket change,
Okay,
right? You're
okay.
so rich,
Right,
that
okay.
that's like you don't even realize. That's like $5 to you, right? Now you can go put yourself out there, and you're like celebrity status dude, right? Women are gonna be tripping over themselves to get to you, right? But if you marry any one of them, do they even love you? You don't know, right? Because they're coming after you for for the money.
Right, okay.
First and foremost, you want somebody that you want to love you. And of course, they're going to be falling over themselves and trying to impress you with all of this stuff, but it's all going to be fake. Someone might be real, but you're not going to know who really wants to know you. The only way, it's like Coming to America, that movie Coming to America with Eddie Murphy, right?
Oh, I
he
loved
becomes
that
this
one.
obscure nobody, right?
Yeah.
And he meets this girl who likes him for who he is. Because
McDowell.
he's a king.
McDowell was her name, yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's the same concept. God came here. He was the son of a carpenter, right?
But wait a second. Are we talking about God? Whoa. Are you talking about God coming here as a carpenter or Jesus coming here as a carpenter?
God manifests in the person of Jesus.
Then how could God die on a cross if he was God?
It's because he set aside his divine power to come here.
Then why did Jesus on the cross say, Father, why have you forsaken me?
He was quoting Psalm 22.
But he's God, right?
Yes, he's God, and he put himself in this situation in order to experience the brunt of sin and death, the worst that a person could possibly experience, and he did it to lead by example.
Okay, so he made his point, apparently. Why is there so much suffering around the world today? Why is there so much hunger? Why is there so much war? Why is there so much poverty? Little children of 2, 3, 4 years old who have done nothing wrong in their life are dying because of hunger. Why would God allow this to happen? You can't say it's free choice at this point. Look, if we were to take the example of God to the extreme, where you had God, destroy the cities, if he created everyone, and I'm just going to use that hypothesis, that he created everything, okay? He destroyed the cities of, Sodom and Gomorrah. He destroyed all the Egyptians that were following the Jews. He drowned them all as they were going to the promised land. He's done so many nasty things to his children. How can he get away with this and still expect people to believe and to love that he is the Almighty and all-present?
Well, I think parents kind of have a good idea. If any parent is out there that's had a kid that broke their heart.
Well, yeah, but you don't kill them.
Well, death is different to God because he's the author of life. And what we see is very limited. What God sees is unlimited. So we don't really have a frame of reference to accurately judge God because we have such an infinitesimally small purview of all the variables at play when it comes to creation.
But if that is the case, John, why did he not? Why did he not give us more information when he was in the beginning writing the book of the Bible with Moses, and give us the real story instead of the story that we were all grown up with? If that he's all powerful, I agree. He's all merciful, I disagree. And if you were to take what God has done into a court of law, he would be convicted of child abuse, homicide, genocide. So how does God expect everybody to worship him when he breaks his own laws, his own rules, his own games? The fix is in.
For freedom to exist at all, it must exist within a period of time, a finite period of time in order for disobedience to exist.
That's all right. Explain that, because I don't understand what you're trying to get at there.
Okay, so God created free will agents, and that's the source of all of this conundrum. Because we want God to be perfect and to not allow any disobedience. But God is a stickler when it comes to freedom. He wants us to make our own choices, and he wants us to learn what love is.
But we were making our own choices until he had Moses go up to Mount Sinai, gave him the 10 Commandments, of which there are many more than just 10, bring them back down for the people to follow, because these were the laws given to Moses by God. If free will did exist, it was God who took it away when he presented humanity with the Ten Commandments.
The Ten Commandments are a guide of ethical living. Before the Ten Commandments were drafted, I mean, there was a sense of right and wrong, but it was very rudimentary. And the Ten Commandments were God providing more clarity on how they could live moral and ethical lives. But, it's really hard getting through to people, because while Moses was up on the mountain receiving the Ten Commandments, they decided to create an idol and have an orgy. So they were really thick-headed, stiff-necked people, as the Bible refers to it. And it takes a lot to teach people the core concepts of godliness and to accept right and wrong and actually learn what love is. And that's a big part of the reason why Jesus died on the cross, is to show us that, as disobedient as we are, he was willing to pay the price for all of our disobedience.
All right, now once again,
make it easy for us to be reconciled to him.
Okay, so you made the reference of Jesus. You didn't say God, and this is what is very confusing to everybody.
Oh, well, that's the Trinity. Jesus is God.
Well, I thought the Trinity was the Father, the Son, and the Holy Ghost. Now, who the heck is the Holy Ghost?
The Holy Ghost is also God. He is the aspect of God who is all present, and he exists within believers. So you could kind of reference our creation itself as a pattern after the Trinity. Height, width, and depth. They are all equally valid. Our dimension wouldn't exist without either one of those. They all play an independent role, but together they are one. Time, past, present, future, same thing. They are independent aspects, and yet they are all one.
God reminds me of President Trump a lot. There are certain people in President Trump's realm that can get away with things that people who follow the Constitution can't. And then there are people within God's favored that can get away from doing anything in the Ten Commandments, and the true believers can't. So why this dual-sided justice system that God has emplaced on the humans? It makes no sense. And to me, there are so many variables that to just take it as blind faith because it's in the Bible doesn't make it so. And here's a question: what happens if the Bible had never been written?
Well, I do believe God puts truth, a certain degree of truth, in every heart. Being our creator, I believe, like in a computer sense, right? You create an operating system, you're going to have access to that operating system. We're an operating system, but we're sentient. However, we may not be aware that God has access to us, but he does. And he's a still small voice in the back of your head. He's your conscience, or at least speaks with your conscience. The innate sense of right and wrong that people have, I believe, is a lot of the times is God. And so that is there with everyone, regardless of whether they've been indoctrinated or taught or given access to the Bible. And the Bible even talks about it in the book of Romans. It says, just look up at the night sky. The fact that you exist and you are sentient and you have the ability to ask these questions about your origin points to a creator. It points to a level of intelligence that can't come about through random acts, through just randomness or nothingness.
Mind you, there are those who disagree with you, John, that it can happen through random acts. And the Bible is the greatest book that has ever been written. There is no two ways about it. It's the #1 bestseller of all time. However, we're coming into a new age with science, quantum physics, artificial intelligence, and it's going to see if the Bible can really stand the test of time. John, I want to thank you so much for joining us, my friend.
Thank you.
Take care of yourself. Exonation, if you'd like more information about our guest this hour, John Milor, please visit his website, johnmilor.com, and www.christianufology.net. I'll be back on the other side of this commercial break as hour number 2 commences right here in the X Zone with yours truly, Rob McConnell, coming to you around the world on the Talkstar Radio Network, Mutual Broadcast Network, X Zone Broadcast Network, and with our friends on your hometown radio, Classic 1220, CFAJ AM 1200 in St. Catharines, Ontario, streaming at classic1220.ca.
Sees the sun going down, and the eyes in his head see the world spinning round. Well on the way, head in a cloud, the man of 1,000 voices talking perfectly loud.